Now, looking at behavior in more detail, if we looked at atypical behavior, we know typical is what's normal. So, what's normality? Again, very difficult to define. That's why we use some additional information here. Um, but why is it difficult to define? Well, some behaviors could be normal in some cultures or situations, again, as we said, but they might be abnormal in other cultures or situations. So what is normal changes based on a lot of factors. That's why psychologists have instead gotten rid of this concept and look at typical and atypical behaviors, as well as adaptive and maladaptive behaviors that we've already discussed in a bit of detail. So, a typical behavior means that an individual just acts as they usually do, whatever is normal for them. Atypical behavior, and we just looked at what is atypical, means that an individual acts in a way that is different or unusual for them. If this behavior is persistent, so it goes on for a long amount of time, and if it's not useful to their functioning and to their daily life, it can raise mental health concerns. Now, maladaptive behavior is any behavior that interferes with that person's ability to function productively in their environment. So, this generally refers to when we're struggling to cope with a negative stressor in our lives and we engage in behavior that doesn't help us but just kind of doesn't make the problem go away and makes the situation even worse, showing that you're not able to cope. But we don't do anything to change the behavior, to adapt it, but we keep following this negative pattern. That's maladaptive behavior. So, for example, if you got a really bad mark on a SAC at school, and instead of exhibiting adaptive behavior and studying harder for it next time, maladaptive behavior would be if next time you had a sook and you didn't study and you just cried about it and occupied yourself with things like Netflix and social media and texting to refrain from studying for the next SAC and just try to avoid it. That would be a maladaptive behavior. And looking at normality, the concept of neurodiversity comes in and needs to be covered. So, neurodiversity refers to the idea that there are many different ways that people experience and interact with their environment, and that there isn't just one correct way of behaving, learning, or thinking. It's all about what is normal for that person, okay? Just because, as long as they act as they usually do, it's not that it's not normal. So neurodiversity describes those variations of normality. And a couple of them would be autism spectrum disorder and ADHD as well, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Very, very common in the community. Great examples of neurodiversity that you need to know about for the subject. So ASD describes variations usually seen in methods of communication, behavior, and learning. So people that are on the spectrum are very, very different. It's not the same. It really is a spectrum for a reason. It's very broad. They won't have the same experiences, strengths, and challenges, or even differences, you know? It's just a wide variation. So, for example, a person with ASD may have more difficulties forming and maintaining interpersonal relationships with others, such as building friendships. But another person with ASD may just have minimal issues with that, okay? It really varies. It could be a really severe impairment in that sense, or it could be a very minor kind of people don't even notice sort of impairment. But oftentimes, more often than not, ASD may involve a bit of a lack of ability to recognize people's emotions and reactions for what they are, and a bit of a lack of ability to interpret social cues, for example. Um, so just as an example, these can be really different amongst people. Same with ADHD. It's really different amongst people with ADHD. But ADHD affects behavior and it generally just creates difficulty focusing on tasks, routine, sitting still, being organized. Um, and these are the kinds of things we see. Shifts in attention, difficulty to